Yeah, I got to start waiting for that red light to come on to tell me that we're actually recording this thing. This is like the second week in a row where I've done premature jocularity getting into the podcast. And I don't know why I'm so excited because this is by far the worst 120 minutes in sports. Like to you who are listening, I sincerely apologize. But then again, you made this choice to put up with this buffoonery. So that's kind of on you. Yeah, that's right. I'm Mike, and this is the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We stink and we know we do. I'm hoping that y'all saved your receipts for 2021 because we are, 11 days into the year? We are just outside of our free preview window, and I'm already starting to think that I want to return this one. I've seen the free preview. Can we go back? Can we just turn this in and go to 2022 real quick? Like hit the fast forward button. Instead, how you doing this evening?
Um, I'm tired. This is why I'm tired. Um, so I had to go back to class today.
Oh,
And one thing that I've realized is that when your room is in a very low level of the school, there's no sunlight, and all the windows are open, it is quite cold in that classroom. And then having to eat lunch outside and all that good stuff, I realized that I was actually outside from 8 o'clock until I got home at 3:30. It was very, very cold. I also saw this on MythBusters once that you actually expend a lot of energy when you're cold. Your
mm-hmm.
body's like trying, yeah. Because I had been exhausted as soon as I walked in the door, falling asleep, couldn't sit still, about falling over, fell asleep on the floor while I was playing with my son. Fell asleep, just out. He was poking me on the back of the head, trying to wake me up. So I'm tired, and I really would like to just work from home again. That was nice. I missed that.
Yeah, I feel you completely. I was dealing with all the beauties of home ownership this weekend, trying to get my cable updated, clean up the office. I succeeded to a certain extent, but then, the spigots on both of my tubs went bad. So there's nothing more fun than trying to replace taps on a tub Sunday afternoon, right? Driving around trying to find them. And of course, so fortunately, we were able to get an Amazon same day, and I put those on and did all the caulking and stuff like that. But whoever thought that you know you'd have to be a handyman? And it
Oh
made me
yeah,
think about the time
I
that
miss
my
I miss renting.
yeah, I'm like, remind me again about the benefits of home ownership. Why am I doing this? This could be somebody else's problem. Meanwhile, I got and I know I've got to redo all the floors because the carpet in here has been in the condo since the Johnson administration, and I'm not talking about Lyndon, right? I mean, I pulled up a dust bunny that had historical significance. It was an eyewitness. It was an eye. This dust bunny was an eyewitness to World War I. So the carpet got up like that. That's and everybody's, well, why don't you do it yourself? In the words of an immortal meme, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm wondering, why am I doing this to myself? Why? And I get it, and it's the American dream. But somebody needed to fix that. So yeah. Well, none of these are problems that you have to deal with right now. Because fortunately for you, you're young and still in school, and mommy and daddy are happy to put a roof over your head for the time being.
Yeah, I'm doing the best I can. It's kind of fun. I get to navigate the intricacies of being a full-time teacher and a full-time student. Uh,
And getting paid to
and
do neither one of them.
I
Full
get
time.
paid nothing, $0, 0 cents. Of all my jobs, this is probably the most profitable one, and You know how much you pay me.
Mhm.
Love and affection.
The love and admiration. That's right.
Yeah. So I get to navigate that, but I won't complain too much. I don't have to deal with I don't have to deal with going in yet because I'm a public school teacher and they can't decide what way is up and what way's down. So I fully expect to be being told you're probably going to go in next month in July, when we've been out of school for I don't know a month and a half, because the administration, as hard as they're trying, it's I think that they're struggling, and I don't think I want to say much bad stuff about them because of course they are watching this.
Yes,
Of
yes,
course.
we know that they have nothing better to
course.
do with their time than to watch a very, very poorly rated, unwatchable YouTube video and podcast about soccer. At least we think that's what we talk about. We're not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And we are joined by our friend from across the pond, London. Sean, how goes it, sir?
Goes well, thank you.
So either it is now all of a sudden very warm in England, or you finally figured out how to turn the heat on in your house.
I've finally figured how to turn the heat on, and I got a bit of an electric shock earlier, as you can see, because my hair's standing on it. But apart from that, all is fine. Yeah.
So
I woke up with the dog in my face about 20 minutes ago, which was lovely. What can I say?
run the house. Dog. We all know dogs and kids run the house. You just pay the bills.
Exactly. They rule the house. I pay the bills. That's how it works.
There it goes.
I buy the house. I pay the bills. They get to lick my face. What can I say?
Sounds like a fair trade-off to me. How's lockdown treating you over there?
Well, it seems as though we've been in lockdown since about 1878 now, to be fair, which is the year that Arsenal were born. So, yeah, I feel as old as the club. Lockdown, I think people have started to realise that this virus thing is getting a little bit out of control. So people are actually more and more adhering to the rules that have been set about 5 months ago. So we're paying the penalty for people being complete wankers, excuse my language, up until now, or the wankers that went out that started the whole thing that's now obviously spread into the normal people. But for the first time, I think we're under 50,000 cases. Way for one day today. So the whole reason for this spike is that people felt that it was worthwhile taking the risk to meet your loved ones on Christmas Day. There we go. Lucky it ain't Christmas Day every day, eh?
Well, we're dealing with the same things over here, and hopefully, maybe sometime by 2095, we'll be allowed out of the house.
Yeah. Well, the good news is they have at least said today that the vaccine will work against the new strands as well. So that was the other worry, wasn't it, really? And they're talking about having a tablet format cure potentially this year as well.
I don't believe that. It's a virus.
What they need to do is put the vaccine in beer. The whole entire world would be vaccinated within 72 hours.
You're right.
I mean, if you could put the beer...
One thing I don't understand, and actually Sean Dyche brought this up in his interview, his pre-match FA Cup interview. Why aren't we vaccinating footballers? Don't get it. Don't get why they're not in the initial batch. So we've targeted over 80s. I can't remember, there's 4 key groups. Teachers is another one of them, or if they just added teachers as well. But yeah, you're only talking about, what, less than 5,000 people in all of those bubbles?
I think, though, that the idea of, again, vaccinating the footballers and the athletes might be received differently in the UK. I can't imagine the uproar that you would get over here if LeBron James got vaccinated before an ER doc,
you, Michael,
or a teacher, or somebody like that. I know that there would be a
What,
backlash.
you think people might storm the Capitol
Who knows? Apparently, we lifted the lid
No,
off.
they'll just store all the urgent cares in the area.
Yeah. But again, though, I'm pretty sure though, if you either put the vaccine in the beer, or you had the nurse standing outside of the pub when you went in, they just gave you the shot, we'd be vaccinated tomorrow.
Shop will give you a voucher. Get your shot. Here's your beer
Got
voucher.
one free
You
beer.
gotta get
One shot and one beer.
one beer. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Wasn't that a song? One bourbon, one shot, one beer. So you get
Bourbon.
beer. So you get a shot, and then you get a voucher for a bourbon and a beer. Everybody will be vaccinated tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you guys started vaccinating over there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's the drug of preference over there?
They give
Marijuana,
Moderna or
but
Pfizer.
Moderna or
Yeah,
Pfizer.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You're
the
going
one.
with the Pfizer one, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Moderna or Pfizer. Pfizer's given to the hospitals, so all the hospital staff are getting Pfizer, and then the general government availability one is Moderna.
Okay.
At least around Maryland.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we'll see. So, yeah. Last time I checked, we actually still though were here to watch football. I was saying, does anybody else feel like, despite the fact that we had this blockbuster weekend, and it was one of the biggest weekends on the British calendar, and we really did have some great FA Cup games. And we'll talk a little bit more about the FA Cup, what stood out later when we get some more of the many guys that make up this soccer show on. Kind of came into Monday, and it was like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting weekend. I mean, you had a couple of lower league, non-league teams winning that will be in the draw at least for another round. Couple of shock results. Marcelo Bielsa still can't manage to win back-to-back games at Leeds.
That was
my
bad
big win
too.
of the weekend. That was
Mhm.
my big win.
Yeah. And Everton squeaking by the skin of their teeth. Brighton still managed to get a draw.
Yeah.
We'll talk with Mikey a little bit later.
Yeah, let him talk about that.
He was very upset with that. Liverpool beat a bunch of kids whose parents dropped them off at the stadium.
No, they didn't.
No,
They dropped them off at the
school,
bus stop,
right?
and they took the big yellow school bus to the game.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you caught this, but Liverpool was playing Aston Villa's youth team. I don't know if it was mentioned in your version of the commentary, because it was barely mentioned in my version of the commentary. Wasn't mentioned once that they were playing the youth team of Aston Villa. Not mentioned once.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not hear the fact that they were so young. Most of them were wearing Huggies pull-ups underneath their kits.
I didn't hear that mentioned one time. I don't know why. Because considering the fact that they were a young team, it was such a relief for the commentators to go to something more interesting and more related to the game than the age of the players on the pitch.
Well, I was pretty sure I saw their goalkeeper walk out with his water bottle and his binky.
Give one of them invited my son to his birthday party.
I thought for a second one of them was Evan instead.
Hey man, he's not a bad holding midi man. You can't get by him.
Sean, was Otto playing in that game?
No, he wasn't. But he was deemed to be too old to play in the game.
Oh, so yes, Otto was too old to be playing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe it's the 2021, 2020 hangover. We're going into a full calendar year of COVID realization, and things aren't changing. That on another weekend, some of these storylines, although, okay, let's be honest, the Aston Villa one was very much COVID related, but had Liverpool had Aston Villa shown up on any other given week with basically a youth team to play Villa, that would be all we were talking about. And that was, you know, and it kind of was like, okay, yeah. But before we do that, there was football played in other countries. And I think the biggest story of the week, Will, which is why you're pulling the early shift. Something happens that hadn't been seen since the days that people were writing on stone tablets. Like, I'm pretty sure the last time this happened, dinosaurs were roaming the earth. Drumroll, please. Schalke actually won a game.
Hey, I watched that whole game too. I actually watched it. Amazingly.
It was a good game for Schalke.
For Schalke. You know, they get Socrates back, and all of a sudden
no,
was it Socrates or
they get Kolasinac back. Yeah,
they get Kolasinac back, and all of a sudden they keep a clean sheet. This young American gets up, scores a hat trick for him. First American to score a Bundesliga hat trick. By the way, he is now tipped to be the next big thing and the great hope for all U.S. soccer, even though I don't believe he's actually played a senior game. And
I don't even think he's been called up.
He did not get the man of the match in that match. And I think that it was deserved because all three of his goals were assisted by the same fella who also scored. Army Aritz. That combination between Matthew Hopper, and Army Aritz was pretty something to watch. They really connected, they really clicked together, and they knew where each other were, and they could pass. They fed the ball into each other so well. Definitely Aritz going towards Hopper. And you see in the scoreline, this is the first time Schalke's ever shown attacking intent. At least it feels that way. And the interesting thing is, with this one win, they're out of the bottom of the Bundesliga. They're on 7 points now. They're in contention to fight to stay in the Bundesliga. And they beat Offenheim, which is a relegation contender. Offenheim is on 15 points. So, you know, Schalke is in another shout of getting out of the relegation zone and staying in the Bundesliga for another season. And I think that would be something quite incredible to watch. Just, you know, based on the trajectory of how they went through last season, they were one of the top teams in the first half of last season. But then they didn't win a game after January, and they didn't win a game until January of this season. And now suddenly they're winning games. Who knows? It could be one of those just they took a year off.
But you can't say from that performance that that's not a team that's capable of winning some more games. I was, and I've watched, you know, a few Schalke games. I think because Schalke has signed relative American players in the past, but for some reason when they're on, I tend to tune in. And I'm watching a team going, okay, if you just watch this game and said to a person who was relatively knowledgeable of soccer, saying, look, that team has not won a game in a year, I don't think that you would be 100% believe. They probably think you're probably pulling a leg or something. So I was looking at this going, okay, what if this was a team that truly was snake bitten and had real issues in the front office and just needed something to kind of get them off the hump? If they win 3 games out of the next 5, they're going to be in 16th or 15th place. And then we're having a much different conversation, alluding to what you're saying, Will. Yeah. So I don't think it's impossible.
The first home game of the new manager, so it could be this sign of a bit of a resurgence. I don't think we're going to see a turnaround where they win for 15 games in a row. But I think you're right. I think that there's a bit of a change in the players, and this is the first game that we've seen where they looked as though they wanted to win it. Because earlier in the season, they had a game. I think it was, they were playing, who was it? It was they drew 2-2. They were playing Augsburg. They drew
Augsburg.
2-2 against a
And they
10-man
had
Augsburg.
a 10-man squad.
And they
yeah.
were leading in the 91st minute. They were leading 2-1 against a 10-man Augsburg. And it just looked as though they'd given up. And they didn't care if Augsburg scored. Like Augsburg scored the equalizer, and Schalke looked as though they didn't really care. They didn't have an intent to play. And that was something that I thought was missing from Schalke. And it's something that they showed that they had over the weekend. But that hopefully it's a spark that keeps them in the Bundesliga, because they're such a storied and interesting club. They're a club on the caliber of a Liverpool, of a Manchester United, of Arsenal in Germany. So it would be a shame to see them go down.
This is a club that a decade ago was playing in the Champions League semifinals. Now, granted, at the time, I think they had like Klaas-Jan Huntelaar and who seemingly is actually still playing.
Yeah,
yeah. Raul might have still.
But you're right. But seeing Schalke in Europe was like, that was expected that you would see Schalke in the knockout stage of Champions League.
And finances, mismanagement. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not they actually do just need to go down, because that will give them a chance. I don't think that
Well, there's the split in the front office right now. It's between, do we hire a player management organization to run the footballing side of things and kind of kill a bit of the spirit of the club, or do we keep the 100% fan ownership of the footballing side of things and keep that moving forward, which is a conversation that's happening in all of the Bundesliga teams. It's one of the reasons that's attributed to Bayern's massive success, because they were one of the first Bundesliga teams to sign on to this idea of hiring out running of the football. So it's a question between, do we keep the soul of the club and go down, or do we kind of kill a bit of the soul but keep us playing for top level football, which is a interesting dilemma for the Schalke fans to puzzle out.
But it's a uniquely German question. I mean, I get where you're coming from with Bayern signing on to have somebody, the professionals run the footballing side of the club and being willing to. But Bayern has always been a little bit more of a corporate club, right? They've always had that. They've always been at the upper echelon. I think their success over the years, this is not a team that goes more than 3-4 years without winning a Bundesliga title. They've been one of the, and even though they're one of the younger clubs in the Bundesliga, they're certainly not the oldest club. They're not even the oldest club in Munich. But they have generated that success, and they've turned into a revenue cow, which makes them the most powerful team in Germany. That is why they are able to do some of the things that they are able to do, whereas a Borussia Dortmund, who has enjoyed a great deal of success in, let's say, the aughts since like 2010, has not financially been able to compete long term with Bayern. They just aren't able. And one would think if there was a team in Germany that was capable of doing it, Dortmund's a big city. They have a massive stadium that people seem to love. You would expect that Borussia Dortmund would have that ability to sort of generate that money, and even they can't compete with Bayern. There's been a lot of mismanagement, as the set falls down behind me, of Schalke over the years. We saw the same thing with the likes of Werder Bremen and Wolfsburg and some other teams, some other big teams that have struggled with that. And you're right. Now, I guess one win makes it interesting. It means that Tasmania Berlin will still go down in history as the worst team to ever play in the Bundesliga. And if you saw anything about this prior to the match, they were very, very, like, that club.
They were very adamant that they wanted to keep that record. They wanted that record.
And you got to understand, I mean, it's like, it was a bunch of amateurs that ended up playing in the Bundesliga for a season because one of the other teams didn't get a license to play, and they have gone down as the worst team, and they wear that like a badge of honor. Like, and
They're
they're
proud of it.
well, and I think they're right when you listen to them. They're like, if we don't have this, who's ever going to even know that in 20 years, nobody will even know that we exist. It's because of Schalke that people have known that they become this interesting footnote to history. Everybody's looking them up. They're getting a bunch of traffic on the internet. People are trying to find Tasmania Berlin shirts.
You have tried to find a Tasmania Berlin shirt, haven't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tasmania Berlin. Just not only it has that combination that makes it interesting to have the shirt. Number one, they're the losingest club in Bundesliga history, right? That's worthy of having the shirt right there. The fact that they're named Tasmania Berlin. I don't know the history of the club. I've never bothered to look it up. I'm sure that much like Borussia Dortmund, they were founded at some sort of establishment that had some relationship to Tasmania, or they were founded by some Australian immigrants or something like that, and that's why they get the name Tasmania. Because otherwise, what does Berlin have to do with Tasmania?
What's funny is if you look on it, the history says that there were some people who were about to go to Australia, and they ended up not going. So they named the club Tasmania. Because that's where they wanted to go. They wanted to go to Tasmania, but they couldn't get there, so they named their club Tasmania.
So we can't get there, so we're going to name this club.
That's a legend. It's not necessarily fact, but it's definitely a legend.
Yeah, but I mean, away from the Schalke point, there was also another interesting game that happened in the Bundesliga this weekend. Well, two interesting games that happened in the Bundesliga this weekend. The first one I want to talk about very briefly was the Dortmund-Leipzig game. I want to talk about that briefly because I saw a goal by, I think it was Erling Haaland's second goal, where he dances through the midfield like Messi, and then he scores a goal like Bas Dost. It was one of those scrappy back post headers. It was entirely on him. And, a lot of the time I felt that let's wait on Haaland to make a bit of a judgment. And I still think that you should wait on Haaland to make a big judgment. But I think that he has the credibility now, playing a full season in the Bundesliga so far, to be said as he is a top striker and he is worth money to pay for him. And watching that goal, you wouldn't be able to say no. And also, Jadon Sancho and Erling Haaland and Marco Reus saved Bayern a few blushes because of the second game I want to talk about, and that's Bayern Borussia Mönchengladbach, where Bayern lost. So to quote Jurgen Klopp, I hear Bayern lost, which is quite interesting. It doesn't happen very often, and they lost 3-2, and they lost to really a resurgent Borussia Mönchengladbach team. They hadn't won a game for 5 games before they played Arminia Bielefeld, and then they beat some 4th division team in the cup, and then they played Bayern, and now they're on a 3-game winning streak. So they're really showing their teeth and showing that they want to play in Europe. They're in contention for those spots, and the next 4 games against them they're playing Stuttgart, Werder Bremen, Borussia Dortmund, and Union Berlin. So they're playing 3 of their 4 rivals for a spot in Europe. So I think that the next 4 games for Borussia Mönchengladbach is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to shape up for the Champions League group stages where they'll play, because they played through Bayern, and they played through Bayern in such a way that made Bayern look like an average team. And I think that the reason I can say that is they played Bayern at their own game. They won the ball in the midfield. They pressed high to win the ball in the midfield. And then they put one decisive pass through from the midfield to a midfield runner or to the striker. And and they scored 3 goals. One of the goals, the striker was so far ahead of the back line that he basically could walk from 3/4 of the way in the Bayern half to where Manuel Neuer was standing and chip him. That's how high up the Bayern line was, and how easily Borussia Mönchengladbach played through it.
We've seen this before, though. I remember this script. If I rewind back to late September, Hoffenheim did something similar in a 4-1 win. Absolutely made Bayern look ordinary. They got behind them. They counterattacked. And we said, oh, Bayern can't keep doing this. They're going to get exposed. Hoffenheim just showed you how to do it. That was September. Bayern didn't lose another game in Germany until coming out of their Christmas break. You know, I think it, just like with Schalke winning a game, I'm going to have to see some more of it before I can say this is a trend, not a one-off. Teams have tried to do it. What I think you see is, like with any team, a little bit of complacency slips in, perhaps because Mönchengladbach had been on such a slide. At one point in time, they were up as far as second in the Bundesliga. They slid all the way down to 7th now. Perhaps Hansi Flick got a little bit complacent. I don't think you would see them. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws because
I think what happened was the Bayern midfield got a bit complacent because they were the ones who were losing the ball, and the Bayern back line. As much as I would hate to meet Niklas Süle in a back alley, he's not exactly the centre back you want on the pitch to play catch up to a fast striker. And that's what he had to do, because he tried to do the Joe Gomez jump to play the striker offside, and he failed. And if you don't know what the Joe Gomez jump is, it's a phenomenon in the Liverpool team where Joe Gomez occasionally tries to jump forward to play someone offside by surprise, and it gets the Liverpool players and coaching staff and fans very annoyed because it doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Hey, Will, what's up with Freiburg, man?
With
SC
Freiburg,
they've won their last 5. They've scored like 15, 20 goals too, man. They seem pretty hot.
yeah, I mean they're on the ascendancy. They got themselves knocked out of the cup, but
I saw that. They haven't really played any
they're
of the top teams either, but I'm just noticing that, a team that's won 5 in a row that's sitting in 8th or 7th means that they were clearly struggling for a while, but seem to have really kind of hit a run of form recently.
yeah. I mean, I can't speak too much about them because they're just another one of those. They're kind of like as much as Chelsea Mike will hate this, they're kind of like a Brighton for me in the German league. You kind of think of them, yeah, they're in there, but they can go up, they can go down. I think they went up the season before last. They might have come up this season. But yeah, they're an interesting team. The German league is a very interesting league to watch if you don't really want to have a partisan relationship with it and know who's going to win the title.
Right.
Well, instead you get your wish because Freiburg has Bayern coming off of a loss, and Freiburg's got to go to the Allianz.
I gotta go to Allianz, yeah.
On Sunday, so you're really going to get to see what they're made of.
It can be the warm-up match.
What I was really doing was I was hoping to tease a little bit by bringing that team up now. So if they happen to win, I can score some favor and be like, hey, the team I brought up last week, I'm going to talk some Germany football with all y'all today.
Well, right. I mean, they play at 9:30 in the morning Eastern, and Liverpool plays at 11:30. Liverpool Manchester United 11:30. So you can go straight from Freiburg to
and if you want
interesting game.
Perfect.
Yeah. And if you're worried about that, and then at 12 o'clock, you've got Schalke and Eintracht Frankfurt. We're going to see if Schalke can make it 2 in a row against Frankfurt. So An interesting week. Now, so we're going to turn and bring in our good friend Andy the Hammer for a little bit of transfer talk. And this is the point in the show that I've been waiting for probably all week, because this gives me the chance to make fun of them for taking that big L on Sebastian Haller. Who, what was it? You buy him for 40 something and then you sell him for 25. I've heard yeah, the striker who comes to the Premier League and can't score goals. The story of
Two of them.
Haller. Huh?
There's two of them.
Mm.
Joe Linton is not exactly setting the world on fire at Newcastle, is he? And that's he cost as much, if not more. So.
Yeah, and Moise Keane is the best example who was at Everton and couldn't even score, couldn't get a start. He was supposed to be like the next big thing. Now he's
Hey, I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, anybody who played FIFA absolutely loved him, but
he got caught 8 times breaking COVID rules. He couldn't stay in the UK, mate. He was going to get kicked out anyway. So.
Jeez.
Apparently, we know what
his big knock is his maturity.
He managed to break COVID rules more than he scored goals.
He did, definitely. Yeah.
Like, what did he have? I don't even think he had one goal for Everton. I think the best moment I remember with Moise Keane was Carlo Ancelotti subbing him on and then taking him off. He was so bad. He was sub to sub. He was just like, "You're so bad. I'm not like, forget about it."
That's called an Eboué over in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. It's an Eboué.
When you sub to sub.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Andy, how's it going?
Going fine. Thanks for having me.
Interesting time in transfer market for the Hammers.
Yeah. I think the funny thing though, I was more sad about losing Robert Snodgrass than it was about Haller. Just because one tried and one didn't. It just every time Haller took the pitch, it seemed like he was walking out there. He had no hold up play for a guy that was like 6'2", 6'3". He could not hold up a ball to save his life. Like at least Snodgrass was a hustle player when he was on the pitch. At the very least, even if he wasn't that skilled, besides crossing and free kicks and that such. But yeah, the loss on him, you mentioned earlier what we bought him, a club record signing, £45 million, and then sell him for about half that. You know, that hurts a little bit. It's kind of sad, but now it just, I guess you move on. It puts a lot of pressure on Antonio though. You know, and we'll see if Antonio can actually deal with that much. I guess he can deal with the pressure, obviously, but can he deal with the amount of games? Just with his hamstring issues in the past, we'll see. Like, it seems like a recipe for disaster if he has to play every single match for the rest of the season.
I think this is going to be a common thing that we're going to talk about with all 5 of us is the January window is not one where you typically see a lot of movement, right? And I think COVID, prices, financial insecurity are going to make it even tougher. Now, if you are especially in the market for a striker or goal scorer, which is a premium on top of that, you feel like the pickings are going to be slim at this point. Do you have any indication of what David Moyes and the Hammers might be looking at to bring in as a replacement, upgrade, something other than just relying solely on Antonio? Or are they going to try and do a Manchester United and maybe score a loan deal for like an Odion Ighalo? He's available, by the way, if you want him.
They're already going after Nketiah.
Yeah, you know, like, is it going to be a loan? Is it going to be a signing? Are they just like throwing things on the wall and seeing if anything sticks?
Yeah, I think a loan is probable. Of anything, you'll probably get a loan. But I wouldn't be shocked if we saw more of. He made his debut today in the FA Cup. His name is Mipo Odubeko, I think it is. He's this 18-year-old forward. He was injured for quite a while, but made his West Ham debut in the FA Cup, and he played like 2 minutes. So how did he look? I have no idea.
This is the kid they got from Man U. Man.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that maybe he sees more time if we can't bring in anybody. Stead mentioned Nketiah. I think Arsenal's manager said that was not a thing. That was not going to happen. It would be nice if West Ham brought him in on loan, just because we need bodies at the very least.
You can have him for 30 mil.
Yeah, we don't have 30 million. That's the thing. Like, there's no way
I
West Ham.
think let's loan him. If they could loan him, I'd loan him. I mean, he's not going to get many games. Even with injuries that Arsenal's had at top, he's still not getting games. So yeah, give some run.
Yeah. I think we saw West Ham was linked with this guy from RB. Was it Salzburg or Leipzig? It's Salzburg. It's Patson Daka, and honestly, he sounds way too good to go to West Ham. I think he was linked a little bit with Tottenham and maybe Leicester as well. So, probably goes there instead of West Ham. But it'll be one of those things where we probably end up with an Andy Carroll type on loan, and everyone's going to hate it, but it's going to work.
Can I interest you in Phil Jones?
No, still not. We have Craig Dawson. He scored in the FA Cup. We're doing.
All right. I'm trying. We will throw in a loan for Daniel James if you will take Phil Jones.
Still not. We don't need a winger. We don't need a guy like Daniel James. We need a number 9. We'll see.
I'll sell you Roberto Firmino, £200 million.
If we had that kind of money,
that would be a bit undervaluing him. I know, but £200 million.
It's a deal. We're playing FIFA over here, apparently.
Yeah, but I'll put that out to the rest of you. Well, Sean, you're in the middle of it. Are there any rumors that are brewing over in England that have piqued your interest?
You want the honest answer? None. I think it's going to be the dullest January window we'll have seen. It was pretty dull last year. I think it's going to be even duller this year. The fact that Arsenal had to take out a £120 million loan, I think it was last week. I can't even remember if that was announced after or before the last show we did. The finances of football, I think, are becoming quite clear. Everyone is skinned, basically. And I tell you what was interesting today. I was looking at the FA Cup thinking there's a lot of teams that are playing close to their first 11 in round 3 of the FA Cup, which is weird because if you go back and look at last year or the year before that, people were still putting kids out. In our run last year, we played Leeds, then we played Portsmouth, I think, in the round, and then we played Bournemouth, or it could have been Leeds, Bournemouth, Portsmouth. And we had the kids playing last year, this Sunday. Anyway, so I thought to myself, why is that? Is that because actually the money involved in winning the FA Cup is quite important to clubs' bottom line? And then I've just looked up, and the money in the FA Cup has been halved for this season.
Oh, wow.
So we won 3.6 million for winning the FA Cup last year. The winner this year will only get 1.8 million. That's less than you get for one Champions League game. So the prize money is diminishing. Everyone's chasing. Obviously, there's the prestige of winning the FA Cup. There's entry into Europe, so that brings a few more quid. But I think everyone's skinned, and everyone is stuck with players. You've just mentioned Harler, who's bought for 45 million euros, sold for 25. I think a lot of West Hams would argue actually that they almost got their money back because it was a 4-year contract. So 45 mil over 4 years is like 10 mil a season. He's played 2 seasons and you're getting the 2 seasons he's got left back. So it's not a disastrous deal. You wonder how much we'd get for Pepe if we sold him back on the open market now. And I think we'd be lucky to get between 25 and 30 million.
Agreed.
Maybe. So I think this is going to happen to a lot of clubs, you know, who bought pre-COVID. You know, they're stuck with losses on their hands.
Instead, are we looking at?
Sorry?
Instead, are we looking at a situation like pre 2008? You know, before the first financial collapse into the worldwide recession in 2008. You know, clubs were flying high; they were spending money, hand over fist. Then all of a sudden, you have the financial collapse, the oil markets, everything goes down. Clubs have basically no money. We reemerge, then all the money gets spent. We're gonna have. I would assume that you're gonna have clubs that are operating on shoestring budgets. You're gonna be able to. You're gonna have to make do with what you can, which can work in both positive and the negative. You may be able to get a good deal from a team that needs to sell, but when you're an Arsenal or a Manchester United and you have an asset like a Phil Jones that or a Marco Rojo that you want to get rid of, you know, you might almost have to be willing to just say, "Vaya con Dios," like we are just going to have to cut bait, take the L, you know, and
you're gonna have to eat a little bit. Yeah, you're gonna have to eat. I think you're gonna have to eat some crow that you may not want to. I don't see how. And you know, we don't forget too. Around that time, too, Arsenal was turning into a selling club. I mean, a lot of their players, granted, they're trying to pay up the stadium, but they were also having a lot of guys that were coming up. They were like, oh, and they were being sold left and right. And so it's not necessarily out of the question to think that only the clubs that have that type of ownership where like literally they'll just spend their own money because they want to. And I'm thinking of City, Chelsea. That's probably it for England. I can't think of another club in England that would do something like that, even if they had the funds. I mean, maybe Leicester's owners, but they get caught up in the financial fair play because they've tried. They've tried to put money into their stadium. They've tried to put money in their team, and they were stopped by the FA. So you would think outside of those two clubs, it's gonna be difficult. And I would say, you know, you could probably put Manchester United in there, but I'm just thinking because the ownership groups of Manchester United and Liverpool are both American, and you know, while they are very wealthy, they're not, you know, part of a ruling family in the Middle East or from, you know, I'm not gonna say anything because it's Russia and I don't want them coming after me, but you know, I have Roman Abramovich either. So you know, I don't want to say it's likely, but I will say I would not be surprised in the least if we saw that occurring.
I mean, we know, and I'm sure Will's going to jump into the defense of the Fenway Sports Group and let us know that they have spent a lot of money on the team, and that if it was a situation where Jurgen Klopp said that he absolutely needed this player to be successful, they would, you know, John Henry would make the money available. But, well, for the most part, they've said you get what you sell.
I mean, broadly, yes. Liverpool Football Club is run on the model, you make the money you get to spend. And, you know, that's the reason we're running around in the January transfer market right now as Liverpool. And there's a good chance, despite the fact that both our senior centre backs are out for the rest of the season, Liverpool will not sign a centre back in January. There's a very good chance that happens. Now, that's not saying that Liverpool won't sign a senior centre back. I think if one is made available for a cut price, so someone who is relatively decent, and then
damn it, that eliminates Phil Jones.
Yeah.
We were hoping we would even sell.
I don't think
Phil
there's
Jones.
been a senior transfer between Manchester United and Liverpool since 1955. So I think Phil Jones was ruled out a long time ago.
We are willing to break that if you are willing to take Phil Jones. Like I remember the court case with Gabby Heinze and Sir Alex saying he wouldn't sell a player that could help his rival beat him. We are fairly confident that Phil Jones won't help you beat us, so we're more than willing to give him to you.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's going to be a tight ship at Liverpool, and I think that you're going to see some players sold. and I'm going to see some players sold that I don't want to be sold. And Genie Wijnaldum's been told he can't have a contract up in the 220,000 pound a week range because Liverpool can't afford it. And I don't want to see him go on a free at the end of the season, but it's looking as though he might be going on a free at the end of the season.
You might find it hard to find someone to pay him £220,000 a week as well.
Yeah, he might find it hard to find someone to pay him £220,000 a week. But you got your Manchester City who are willing to pay just about anyone £220,000 a week as long as they can kick a football towards a goal. So, I think that Liverpool and FSG do run a tighter ship than most managing groups. I think they definitely run a tighter ship than the Glazers. I know the Glazers just suck money out of Manchester United, but I don't think that Liverpool's going to be given a lump sum of cash to say, okay, you can go buy a player now. I think that they're just going to be told, tough living. Everyone's finding it kind of hard right now. Make it work with a 19-year-old and a 23-year-old that's at best. Make it work.
Quit your whining. Andy, so in light of that, I might actually sit there and say, you took £20 million loss on Haller, but being able to get something for him at this point probably actually represents some amount of decent negotiation in business. I guess the big issue being, are you comfortable enough if they are not able to bring in something to replace him moving forward? Are you secure enough that it's not going to reflect negatively, too harshly, the inability to score goals? Although it wasn't like Haller was knocking them in for you anyway. If they aren't able to reinforce, does this put them in a bad situation? Because, statistically, teams really to this point haven't played any more games than they would have up until this point in the season. What we're going to see moving forward is a lot more games. You have Antonio, who's your main goal scoring threat, who has had his injury history. He's an asset when he's on the pitch, but he's had his injury issue. Is there some sort of fear that they could find themselves in a situation where the goals dry up?
Yeah, absolutely. Antonio is one sprint away from pulling his hamstring. It seems to happen every month or so, and he just got back from a hamstring injury. So I feel like throwing him out there for a million games in the new year is going to be a little bit dangerous. I don't love the idea of not having cover for him. I mean, you look around and if you don't have Antonio starting up top, I guess you could play Jared Bowen. You could play Syed Benrahma. Both of them are more the winger types than, actual down the middle. They can, hold up play. Those guys, are more just on the wings. I mean, so it's going to be the style of football that Moyes wants to play really relies on Antonio being the hard charger, chasing down every single ball. If you don't have him, I think we all saw it when Haller was forced to play considerable minutes up top. The goals just were super hard to come by. And it looked like our best striker was Thomas Souček out of central defensive midfield. I mean, just, it was kind of reliant on set plays and corners to get those goals, just with Ogbonna heading in. I mean, even in the FA Cup against Stockport, it took a corner and Craig Dawson heading in. There was not many chances created besides that. So yeah, there's definitely a worry. But I don't think we're the only team kind of in this position either. And I think, with the amount of points, you look at the table, like as a West Ham fan, like I'm sitting around in this Zoom chat with a bunch of people that are normally top 6, except for Arsenal this year. It's like you guys are looking at, Europa League and things like this. Like that's what you're gunning for. And West Ham, at the end of the day, you kind of want to not get relegated. And I think you look and say, I think our defense is good enough that we're not going to blow the next 20 some matches or however many are left, that I think we're going to be completely fine. So I'm not that worried, but yeah, if Antonio gets hurt, and we're starting Bowen up top every single match, I think that's an issue.
Well, the funny thing is, right now you're talking about that, and then you're sandwiched in between Chelsea and Arsenal, which is just interesting. I mean, just an interest tells you what the season is like. We want to welcome in Chelsea Mike Shoestack and Coach Matt. How y'all doing? Mike has his whole entire. I think he's got this Oregon Bob Dylan thing going on. Like, are you channeling your inner Bob Dylan this week?
No, it's actually a funny story. Over Christmas, my girlfriend tested positive for COVID. So I spent a fair amount of time in isolation, and in isolation, you can't get your hair cut. So we're getting a little froey out here.
Yes. You have the look of somebody who has spent a lot of time in isolation.
Lots of time to watch soccer.
Yes, and we will get on to your rant
Go
on
Brighton.
Go Brighton. But Mike, I did want, as we are talking about transfers, I did want to see if you saw the news from the Philadelphia Union about Mark McKenzie heading over to Belgium, to Ghent.
I haven't seen it. Genk. There you go. The ancestral home of Kevin De Bruyne. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it's one of those two. It's either Ghent or Genk. I can't remember which one it is.
Ghent. Yes. Well,
Yes.
I hadn't heard that news, but no, it's good. It's it's good news whenever MLS.
No, it's
players
Genk. You're right. It is Genk.
Yeah.
So he's heading over to Genk. I think one of the most expensive transfers for a homegrown MLS defender. We're talking about $2-3 million.
Huh. Well, I mean that's pretty good, and it just it's not
More
good
than
for the
you'll get
Union.
for Phil Jones.
Well, I was gonna ask Andy. I was gonna ask Andy, like, if you guys are looking for striking and attacking options. Apparently, there may or may not be some available in MLS, and it looks like prices are relatively cheap.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to just about anyone right now. If they can chase and put pressure up top, sure, why not? As long as they're cheap.
Yeah, it seems like you can get some young players from the MLS for relatively cheap. I'm pretty sure you could also get guys like Miguel Almiron or Joseph Martinez is coming off with a pretty bad knee injury. I don't know if you want him, but yeah, you can get some MLS attackers for cheap. So here's what you do: you buy about 5 of them for what a half of one Hilaire costs. That way, you're playing the lottery. Chances are one of them's actually going to be halfway decent. So what you do is, instead of paying $45 million for one Hilaire, you buy 10 MLS strikers for £4 million a piece, and then you play the odds. One of them's going to be halfway decent.
I have a question about the MLS. Do you get a lump payment sum if you pay the MLS that amount of money? So if you say, I'm going to buy 10 strikers from the MLS, do the MLS say, okay, instead of 40 million, we'll do it for 35?
No, what I actually do think is they throw in a kit and an extra defender for free. So it's buy 10, get the 11th free.
You get season tickets to a MLS team of your choice.
And the opportunity to play
you get to go to Chester.
Yeah.
You hang out in Chester.
And the opportunity to play a friendly in Chester, right? So we're running a sale on the MLS. Buy 11 strikers, get the 12th one, 12th, and in fact, we'll throw in 12 and 13 for free. So what you could do is you could just buy an entire team of strikers, Andy, from the MLS, and just play the odds.
It could work. One of them has to be decent.
That's what I'm saying.
At the very least, it's cover for Antonio's inevitable injury. So it's.
See, I'm even thinking like that might be a strategy for Arsenal, and Mikey, Chelsea buys a bunch of players every year. Why not just Well, you know what Abramovich is going to do? He's just going to buy an entire team,
Yeah.
like
I'm
Man City did.
be
Yeah.
more than happy to have the Philadelphia Union a wholly owned subsidiary of Chelsea Incorporated.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I don't know about you.
And that would be the day that Union jersey comes down from behind me and gets folded up. And oh, geez, you know, I never really thought of that. What would I do if Liverpool or Chelsea or Arsenal?
Well, you know all the chants, so I say stick with it. Because here's the thing, I live in the city of the minor league team of the Pittsburgh Penguins, but I am a Philadelphia Flyers fan in hockey. So to me, I cheer for them while they're here, but then should they get called up to the major league team, they die to me. They're dead. So, support your local squad,
Mm.
even
Matt,
if
what
they are wholly owned subsidiaries of your most hated enemy.
Matt, what would you do if Liverpool bought DC United?
I don't know. That's a really hard question. To be honest, though, like I look at the positives because honestly, it's all about development. So if they have a program, like I know a lot of the MLS Hardies, like they really don't like City's, potential format in which they're kind of working people. But I mean, you have people like Jack Harrison who actually ended up getting to Premier League. Now he's playing for Leeds. If they work out something, I know that. So when I was a little associated with them, they actually had serious talks with Swansea to start a partnership with them. And yeah, it's really good for the youth setups. Like for the pro level, it really doesn't have that much of an impact, but it really helps like the U23 teams and like the U16 teams because they get a shot, and they may not get a shot at like a Premier League team, but they might get taken over to Swansea University, and they play in the university systems abroad, and then that's how they get seen, and they can actually just get into the league system that way. So yeah, I mean, and honestly, I mean, it's tough because I'm a Nationals fan now, but I grew up before the Nationals. I was a Red Sox fan, so like they're not the group that owns them are not like Liverpool are not bad. So they tend to take an analytical approach. So I'd kind of be happy with it. It'd be tougher it'd be tough, but I'd accept it for the greater good, as they say. I'd like it. Yeah.
I hate magnanimous people. I hate magnanimous people. Like, I'm petty. They get bought by Liverpool, you are dead to me. I will take the jersey out in the backyard and burn it. You're dead to me.
So who would you root for then? Like if they bought the Union, who would you root for?
I'd probably turn tail and come down here and root for DC since I live here. And that would be the biggest up yours. That I can't root for NYCFC. It would have to be either. I'm not going to root for Red Bull. Definitely not going to root for New England Revolution. So either you know what I would do right now, because we have the podcast, I would let people make arguments and then go for whoever was the highest bidder. But a logical choice would be to root for DC United, and just because technically there's a local club, but I'm still so petty that I root for any team from DC. Like the petty runs strong in my blood. I'm man enough to admit the petty runs strong. You know what I'm saying? Instead, like once you realize that you're petty, you just kind of lean into it and lean into it. It's way more fun when you lean into it.
Absolutely.
So, Andy, I know that I've got to lose Mike in a little bit. You said you only had a little bit of time, but I want to do this because this is something that Andy, as kind of rookie to the newest member of our little cohort, hasn't done. He hasn't gotten the chance to do a good too many guys prediction. So the rules of a too many guys prediction is it normally has to be absolutely and totally ridiculous. So we're going to round up our transfer talk with this. I need a good too many guys prediction on a transfer that may or may not happen.
Okay. Marko Arnautovic comes back to West Ham and becomes a hero in East London after absolutely slagging off the team. That's what's going to happen. I don't know if I could accept him back, honestly. Like it ticked me off beyond belief when he left. But at this point, we might have to say, sure, we'll see.
Mikey, what you got?
Transfer prediction.
Mm-hmm. A good old fashioned too many guys transfer prediction.
Chelsea sell Frank Lampard to NYCFC.
And what do they get for him when they sell him to manage the provincial team?
£1 million in a bag of balls.
£1 million in a bag of balls. I think a bag of balls might be more valuable. All right. Well, we are going to turn our focus as we welcome in Mr. Carlos Rosali and his cat and his background and his soccer jersey. Which is this one today?
Love it. That's
awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. I love that. That is some old school MLS colors right there. Love that.
I went for the Czechoslovakian national team today.
Not a bad choice.
So, Los, how you doing? But before we get into this, we're going to switch gears and we are finally going to talk about the FA Cup. And that can only mean one thing. Now, Los, you were with me. It was about, I want to say around 4:30, 5 o'clock on Sunday. I was watching some NFL football. And we have a chat thread amongst all of us. And all of a sudden, I start getting these all caps messages.
It was Billy Mays.
I thought, now I'm already on high alert because it's not like we didn't have a national emergency earlier this week. I'm not sure whether the Capitol's burning down again. I'm not sure what's going on. Is everybody all right? I was out watching football, having a couple of pints, freezing, and all of a sudden, and it turns out that Brighton had managed to figure out a way to draw.
Mhm.
Mikey, why are you so mad?
It's simply amazing, and I say it all the time. The way Brighton is built to draw every game, have 38 points and come in 16th. Well, it turns out they're also built to draw every game in the FA Cup as well. Doesn't matter if they're playing a League Two side, they will concede in the last minute, and they will draw. And in fact, they only won the penalty shootout by one kick because someone has to win eventually. But it was very high drama, actually. In the game in Newport County down in South Wales, an own goal in the 95th or 96th minute was right there when there was only 4 added minutes. It was a great finish to a great weekend of watching soccer. But Brighton, what can you say?
Why
They're built to draw. It's like an addiction to them.
I'm not sure. Sean, you had a question for Mike before he gets out of here.
Yeah, Mike, just before you go, how was it managing the Sex Pistols?
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was awesome. I was loud. It was great. Was it good? I can't contain my volume anymore.
Were you consistently on 11?
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
the only other thing I'll say is that we did have a bit of banter, didn't we, on the chat? And I did say to you that there was obviously a ploy. That they might have the 5 best penalty takers ever. I told you in the 41st minute of the game. So there we go. That prediction came through.
But overall, it was a pretty good FA Cup weekend as we get into it now. I'm going to start with Stead and let him lead us off. Stead, Mike, you have to go first. Give us your thoughts on the weekend before we, in case you got to go before we get to you.
Yeah, I'll give you I'll give you my thoughts on the weekend and sort of the upcoming draw. I'll give you a hot take on the upcoming draw. My take on the weekend, fantastic fun. I mean, how fun was it watching Marine play Tottenham? Michael Oliver's the referee. There's people sitting in their backyards drinking wine, watching the game. That's what the FA Cup is all about. To me, the results, there was nothing really that stood out as shocking. I think a lot of the Premier League teams got their stuff done as you would expect. Obviously, Chorley beating Derby County. They ran out there with kids, and you saw the result. But
Didn't Leeds lose this weekend?
What's that?
Bad.
Didn't Leeds United lose this weekend?
Leeds was a big upset of the weekend.
Yeah.
But let me leave you with this thought. Upcoming draw, I think we all know Chelsea and City got a pretty good go of it. Man U, Liverpool is going to be the most exciting game, the one that everyone tunes in for. But I think that the best opportunity out of all this goes to Sheffield United. Sheffield have little hope in their league, but they can salvage something in the season doing a deep run here. They're playing a League One side, and then they have two championship teams in their potential 5th round draw. Maybe Sheffield United can, maybe last year their big upset surprise run was in the league. This year it's in the cup. They have the opportunity for it. Let's see if they can deliver. Otherwise, like I said, Chelsea
quarter semifinal last year too, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we beat them.
Lost to Arsenal, and we beat them. Yeah. But they had a run of them. Yeah.
Say it a bit more nonchalantly.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, we
how
beat
far did
them.
they go last year?
I'm just pointing it out. That's all. That they had a little run. I'm supporting Mike's statement. I'm supporting Mike's statement.
Talking on behalf of my own personal sponsor, Paddy Power, Mike. If you really wanted to put your money where your mouth is, you can get Sheffield United at 60-1 today to win the FA Cup.
Oh, not at 60.
60, you'd be looking at 600.
If it was 300.
300. Okay.
If there was 300, that'd be worth £5.
Okay. Or you can have Crawley Town at 1,000-1.
All right.
That's what I was looking at.
Might just be worth £1 anyway.
Yeah. Hey, they're playing Bournemouth, man, and anybody can beat. Bournemouth's one of those teams that can win or lose to anybody. We've seen that time and time again, right? All right, Mike. Thanks for you got to head on out, but thanks for joining us, and we'll get you on again real.
Thank you.
I think what I like most about this round is it's. I feel like finally, at least on this part of the world, we're able to see these games that we weren't able to see before. Thanks to the way they're doing the streaming and the way that ESPN has basically taken this over. Now, the coverage in and itself on our end is bad. I mean, from the standpoint that halftime is usually just an image and it says we'll be back soon. There's no real recap of anything. They might show the goals one more time, that they have the one guy who happens to have his YouTube ready to go, who can cut a quick little highlight reel. But at least we're able to see the games, and the coverage is hit or miss. I know Mike was talking about trying to watch the Fulham game, and that just didn't happen. That's for some reason that game just wouldn't come on. I ended up watching the it was Portsmouth, and they were playing. Who did Portsmouth play? I think they were playing Bristol City, and pretty exciting game. I mean, it was a very a late goal, a pretty goal in the last 10 minutes of the match, and that was enjoyable. And to see Blackpool, who I think they've had 2 seasons in the Premier League. I think they've come up twice in the past 15 years or so, and knock out West Brom. And look, I made no secret that my West Brom's probably second to right for the team I like to beat up on. So to see West Brom, another Premier League team that goes out early, I just think that's the fun. But I mean, I know we were all kind of watching random games. Did anybody see a random game that they want to throw in the mix?
Well, I'll just interject 1 second. I mean, the one thing, I'm just looking at when the next rounds are being played. So the first thing I'll say is there's probably the least shocks ever in the third round of the FA Cup. We've mentioned Crawley, we've mentioned Chorley, we've mentioned there was one other shock. Very, very few shocks. However, the next 2 rounds are going to be played on the 23rd of Jan, which is what, in 11 days' time?
Yeah.
And the following round on Wednesday, the 10th of Feb. So I think that we're still in that period where we can see some clubs just falling to COVID. You don't even know if you're going to get your first team out. The COVID is so bad over here at the minute. I mean, I think we saw Celtic had to isolate
19 players.
Yeah.
19 and their coach. And they, it broke a little late for me to get Cam on to talk about that, but yeah, and decimated. They pulled out a draw, but 21 down. COVID, yes, COVID is going to be the great equalizer, I think, in the FA Cup. You're probably likely to see a couple more teams end up in Villa's shoes, where you got to play a youth team just to get the fixtures, because the FA is mandating that you play if you can put a team out there, then you have to play. And one thing that we haven't talked about is, well, we're imagining that we know that the lower division teams that were playing at Premier League stadium teams were tested. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not doing testing in the lower leagues.
Nope.
So some of those lower league teams that were playing each other were not tested and will not be tested ahead until they get to play a Premier League team. And who knows what's going to happen then. Add on to that fact, what do the current COVID restrictions have in store for a team like Crawley, one of those non-lower division teams, non-league teams? Are they even going to be able to practice between now and then?
No, they won't. Am I right in saying? I can't remember what. Certainly, Marine would have not been able to play football, I think, recently. I don't know. Los, you can correct me. Had Marine played a game prior to playing you in the cup?
Yeah, that was their third FA Cup match, actually.
It was, wasn't it? But are they still playing their league fixtures though?
I'm not up on Marine's schedule. Couldn't tell you.
Okay. Well, I have a feeling that the fixtures are not happening lower down the leagues. But of course, if you look at the makeup of Marine's team, did they not have like a few teachers in there, for example? So those
plumbers. They had a plumber.
Yeah.
They had.
The point I'm trying to make is those people are still doing their jobs and they're being exposed to either other children in the school, or if they're plumbers, they're exposed to people in every household they go out and do the plumbing for. So without, even though they were tested, when were they tested? If they were tested on Thursday, they could have still contracted COVID between Thursday and playing the game against Spurs. So, did anyone transmit anything to any of the Spurs players? it's all up in the air, really, isn't it? And when Steve Bruce mentioned the fact that maybe we should take a break, I think he's perfectly right. But if you take a break, you put up the fixtures. If Tottenham got to every final this season,
Right.
there's nowhere to fit more.
There's
fixtures.
no room.
There's no room.
That's why. That's why when they called off the Villa game, I'm like, okay. And they, but wait, we're gonna put the Fulham game back in there that we missed over Christmas. Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, that's good, I guess. Sure, we have to play it.
I mean, I think that the conversation this season is going to be a lot more serious about, do we end the season where we give teams points per game for the last 2 games? Or something along those lines. I think that will be the question that happens. And I don't know what the case will be, because they're trying to do the Euros and they're trying to do the Olympics in the summer. So it's going to be it's going to be a mess at the end of the season.
I forgot about Japan. Oh man.
It's going to be a mess at the end of the season. And I don't think there's any good answer that's going to come up. But the one thing I would like to point out, Liverpool is playing Manchester United on January 17th, and they're playing Manchester United on January 23rd. That is my mother's and my sister's birthdays. So my sister is the 17th and my mother's the 23rd. So, I think that we know what's going to happen.
You don't even have to watch the game.
Who do they
you just celebrate your birthday party because we're going to win. That's what you're saying.
Well, I don't know who's playing on my birthday. Mine's the 25th, but I don't know who's. I don't think anybody's playing on my birthday. That's on Monday.
Los, I do want to thank you all. This, I realize that we don't get along on a lot of things, sports related, but there's one thing that you and I both can agree on. We don't like the Marines.
I'm not gonna go there. Some of my best buddies at work are Marines, so they're all right. They're all right. And you know what? When it push comes to shove, we're really on the same team there. When you're talking about what happens outside the confines of the U.S. Mm-hmm. So. But,
so you weren't walking down the hallways. 1, 2, 3, 4. We hate the damn Marine Corps. No counting. No counting cadence. Delayed cadence.
I would offer friendly wagers for the Army Navy game. This is about 20 years ago when they first started the Navy RT on my campus, and I said, guys, want to wager the Army Navy game? And they said, we support the Navy team, but we're not dumb enough to bet on the Navy team. I said, okay, that's fine. 20 years ago, that was a good call. But then they went for the longest time. They had that streak of victories against Army, which was recently broken by 3 years ago. So,
about 4 now.
3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. So, hey, in times of war, we want them on our side. On the football field, screw them.
And that was where we were when Tottenham. So I was actually happy that Tottenham beat Marine, because I see something with Marine in it, and I'm not always positively.
Did you know the history of the name Marine?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm sure
it's a hotel, or was a hotel.
Yeah.
And that's where the name came from. And I don't even know, is the hotel even around anymore? I think it's gone. But they kept the name.
No, but it was nice. I think this is what I like about this round is you get to see these teams play. Matt, I know it was a little bit later, but I can still remember, what was it, about 10 years ago, that Crawley, when they were making that push to join the league, had to come up to Old Trafford and play a game.
Yeah. I think was it Crawley?
No, I know it was Crawley Town that came up and played at Old Trafford. We'll remember the game that was 2-1 at halftime, that you guys were losing to the non-league team with the striker was a trash man.
Yeah, can't remember who it was, but
I mean, he came back and won 5-2, but they had to put on Stevie Gerrard to like actually win the
Yeah.
game in the second half.
But I mean, sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you're playing a team where they're resilient and incredibly good, despite their age, at halftime, and you get into halftime 1-1, and you're feeling upset because it's only 1-1, and the only thing that's been mentioned is the age of the team and the opponents. And then for 3 minutes, your team just decides to go to work, and then it's 4-1, and you just go to sleep. So
Yeah.
I can't
Exactly.
identify with that at all. Over the weekend, Liverpool was playing a very tough opponent in Aston Villa, and Aston Villa was fielding their strongest squad that they could, and Liverpool managed to win
Well,
4-1. And as we know, as we've mentioned earlier, the age of that squad was not once mentioned in the commentary, and I don't think we should mention it today.
Well, the funny thing
But on a
was
more
Aston Villa
serious
was
note about
actually
that.
fielding the strongest team that they could.
Yeah.
It wasn't the kids' fault that their average age was preschool.
Yeah. On a
Yeah.
more serious note, I think that Liverpool handled that situation as best they could, but they didn't. Like, it still doesn't make them look good. They beat a team of kids 4-1. They let in a goal to a team of kids. A 16-year-old striker scored against them. But I think that game, I wanted to watch it, but at the same time that I was watching it, I was thinking, why am I watching this game? The commentators were lauding the kids, but there wasn't really any point in that game where I thought they're doing something special. The only player on the pitch that I thought was doing something special was the Aston Villa centre back, Rivan. He was doing something pretty special, and I think that he's their U23 captain, and I think he's someone to watch going forward. But I didn't see too much invention from Liverpool to break that team down, and I didn't see too much more than you'd expect from a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds playing against one of the best teams in the world. So, it wasn't an interesting game to watch by any means for me.
It could have been worse.
Could have been worse for both teams.
No, it could have been worse
Yeah.
because you could have had the 3:00 game on Saturday. Yeah, I know, Matt, that United got the win courtesy of a very early goal from Matthew McTominay.
Blondie.
Yes, that game was so dull. I kid you not. In the
So
second half,
boring.
I stopped watching. I picked up, put it on my iPad, and came into my office and decided to put together a shelving unit because at least I could use this next 45 minutes to be productive, right? There was nothing to be seen.
It's actually going to be good for you, Matt, because when your baby's born, the best way to get your baby to sleep is just to
sleep.
go the game again, man.
No, that's
Yeah.
I was actually.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just yelling at I wish my wife was here because she was actually in the same room as me watching it, and I was just screaming at random moments, like in like the 38th minute or like the 65th, just how boring that game was. You know what it really reminded me of? The only difference that we had was an early goal. It honestly reminded me of the old like LVG, like Louis Van Gaal days, where it was just boring and you're just screaming at the TV for something to happen, like to pick it up. I will say one positive was that we didn't have to bring on Bruno. It sucks that Baye had to come out, and that man is made of glass, unfortunately. But yeah, at least we got some rest in there for him. That's what we needed. I'm a little annoyed that Rashford and Martial had to come in.
I'm not annoyed that they had to come in because, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm wondering if you and I have talked about this, and we actually, by extension, all of us have talked about this. I feel a lot of times that Solskjaer's, short of injury, Solskjaer's substitutions are pre-planned.
Yeah. Yeah, I do
And
too.
I think that his intention was always to bring Martial and Rashford on in that point in that game, given the 5 substitutes, to bring them on and let them get some playing time, hopefully against a wearing down
Hmm.
uh, Watford team, to see if they could potentially put something on net.
Yeah.
It didn't work. So I get where you're saying. Like, I'm glad that we got rest for Fernandez. That was a game that he didn't need to be involved in. Glad that he got that. I think the Rashford and Martial things were kind of pre-planned. We were able to see out the finale of the suspension for Edinson Cavani, and we can all debate
Yeah.
whether or not that was fully deserved. And yeah, thanks. Now we get to play Liverpool twice in the span of a week.
I have actually a couple questions for you. So my first one is, what are your thoughts on Mason Greenwood lately? Because I think that he's been really disappointing this season. Like, I think that I know in our United group, I know Rob says a couple times there's some off the field stuff that might be going on with him, but that may be distracting him. But he's been really weird, really off to me. That everyone was, when the lineup came out, everyone, at least all the United fans, were so excited that he was like up top. He wasn't out wide, and that was his game to kind of show like, hey, I'm learning from Cavani. A lot of people are, saying that they're seeing, glimpses of like young Robin van Persie in him. And I just felt that he was just a passenger that whole game. And then the other second question is, I'm really disappointed we didn't bring up youth team players. Like, I looked at the whole bench and there was no one. There was no one. Not even like Palestri was on the bench, or Mejbri, or anybody. Like, I was kind of actually disappointed that they didn't, at least they weren't even in the squad, which is kind of shocking for at least United. Same with Arsenal too. Normally Arsenal and United have their benches or starting lineups filled with youth players for these games. So
I would
just
say
your
that
thoughts,
would have
Mike.
been the case if Arsenal wasn't playing against Newcastle. I mean, I think when you're playing against a fellow Premier League squad, I think you might need to take that a little bit lightly, because you knew Newcastle wasn't going to do that. So
Yeah,
I mean, that's just from the Arsenal.
No, I wasn't even saying. I wasn't saying
I wasn't quite surprised with the lineup, but yeah. But
no,
yeah,
I wasn't
normally
saying
they
it for
do.
I
They
wasn't saying
overload
it for
the
this
team.
game for
Yeah.
Arsenal. I'm just saying, like, usually
Yeah.
when you hear it's like this person you've never really heard of is like, from Arsenal's academy, at least like as neutral fans, like they're just on the bench for every odd FA Cup game. And United normally does the same thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, there was no one. There was no one from the academy at all, and I'm really surprised about that.
I think so. Let me take the first one, the second one first. In a normal season, I would be right there with you. Why are you not? And it would have been, for any one of our teams, a great time to blood in some youth. Even though they were playing against a U23 team, and they had a lot of kids out there, well, Liverpool still had, Mane on the pitch. They still played some serious first team firepower. I think it was important in this game, while he brought the youth players up to train and give them, I think it was important to give some players, some fringe players, a chance to get some time under their belt, right? Brendan Williams got some game time. Juan Mata got some game time. Lingard got some game time. Daniel James got some extended game time. Axel Tuanzebe got some game time. All those guys got some. And given how this schedule is going to play out over the course of the next couple of months for every team, these are players who are going to be involved more likely than not in games. So it's important to have them in rhythm. If it was anything else where, a normal season where you had normal rest and normal expectations and it wasn't COVID where on top of a bunch of games a week where you're playing every other day, you have the threat of at any given point in time, somebody could pop positive for COVID, and then all of a sudden you're missing 11 first team players, and you've got to bring those players in to backfill in. You need them to be sharp. You need them to be at fitness. You need them to have had some game time. I'd be right with you. I would have expected, and we've seen him do well. We haven't seen Ole do that. He likes to use his youth at certain points in time, and he might have subbed them in, and he might have been more available. But I think it was important to give some of the fringe first team players an opportunity to play because they have to be sharp. We don't know when they're going to get called on, but we know that they need to be able to get in there. As far as Greenwood goes, I would love it if youth development was a smooth trajectory and it built on itself year in, year out, where you have a player who looks like he did last season, and then they take the next logical step forward. The fact of the matter is, we know for a fact that doesn't happen. Look back at Rashford in his second season in the Premier League under Jose Mourinho. He was not nearly as effective, as used, as whatever, as he was his first season. I think it's a natural part of the growth curve. Now, what is going to separate Mason Greenwood from, and if he is a young Robin van Persie, if he is a young Wayne Rooney type, if he is that player, then he'll clear up these off-field things. He'll get his head back in the game. He'll get his development, and we'll see it because clearly the natural talent is there. Otherwise, he will be another in a long line of never was. We all know any one of the six of us, if I went around right now, we could name an athlete, be it in soccer or another sport, who was a great talent, but for whatever reason, just never materialized. Matt, Ravel Morrison.
Yep.
Just
had his contract canceled too.
Yeah, all the talent in the world, never was. Freddie Adu. All the talent in the world, never was. The ones who it happens because of injury, and we got to see glimpses of it, and then through injury, robs them. United has had a line of guys that burst onto the scene, made an impact as a young player. Kiko Macheda scores those 2 goals against Villa early in his career. Never happened. Whatever happened to James Wilson?
Yeah.
I mean,
he got injured, but yeah.
Yeah. There's a long line. So you would like to see him be doing more. I think they're trying to handle that, and we're going to see where it leads. But I certainly think that he's got the talent within him. It's with all the eyes, social media, everything right now, it is hard. And he's, yeah. Los just typed one in the chat box. We can name any litany of players who we thought were going to be great and just never quite got to where we thought they were going to be. But I think all around for the FA Cup, as we kind of need to put this to bed, this part of this discussion to bed, it was job done. Los, y'all had to beat Marine, but you did have a young goal scorer that you need to talk about.
Mr. Divine. Mr. Divine, Alfie, youngest player to play for Spurs on the first team. 16 years, let me get this right. 16 years, 163 days old, this kid. And he comes on and scores a goal in the second half to make himself the youngest goal scorer in the history of Spurs first team. So that was a great day for him. One of the things that I don't know if you guys talked about it or not. I don't know how much you guys talked about regarding the Marine
Nothing.
club. Nothing. Okay, well, let me go ahead and put this out there because this is a great deal, and this is really, to be honest, I mean, this is all part of the FA Cup magic, if you will. But Marine being an 8th tier club, they were looking forward to having Spurs come and play, although, albeit with maybe perhaps fewer people in the stands. Well, when they went into lockdown, nobody in the stands, and the only people that were there were media and the people and team personnel that were in the stands for the game. But they lamented the fact that, well, we had hoped for some ticket sales to help us build a little revenue, and so they went ahead and opened up virtual sales, virtual tickets for people to buy. And the caveat was, if you buy one, you are entered in a raffle to manage the club in a preseason match next season. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, they plan on selling 600 of these tickets. They ended up selling over 20,000 of these tickets. So, and it's a big boost for them revenue wise. And it just speaks to it probably wasn't just Spurs fans that bought these tickets, but the Spurs nation, as the Spurs supporters, supporting this not young, they've been around a long time, but this 8th tier club that's just trying to make ends meet, and they did so in a pretty meaningful way. So that to me was probably the biggest story of the weekend, other than we won 5-0.
How much were the tickets, Buzz? Do you know? How much were the tickets?
I think there were 25, I think.
£500,000. Very nice. Yeah.
I think so. I think there were 25.
I believe amongst the other story, there is an interesting thing about that. Am I correct in saying that Jose Mourinho bought one of those tickets?
Yes, he did. His whole staff bought one. So it's possible he might win the raffle and he might get to coach Marine for a preseason match. Wouldn't that be something?
Now, what I would love to see
10 men in
them,
defense Marine. Hey!
I think that they should just award it to Jose Mourinho.
Well, no, because people bought tickets with the chance of having the opportunity.
I think that Jose Mourinho should win the raffle.
But this is what I'm saying.
I think he should be the assistant, on the day.
No, but I think that they should win it. But what they should do is get in contact with Spurs and set up the match at there's the Spurs Stadium, and therefore Jose
a preseason
match
Spurs Marine at Spurs Stadium,
a friendly, and Jose should have to manage Marine for one half and Spurs for the other.
Why? It's not going to be a testimonial. Come on.
Yeah, but
It's
no,
gonna be
just
a
as
proper
part of,
preseason friendly. This.
but just as part of this raffle, like if Jose wins, he should have to manage Marine in a friendly at the new White Hart Lane against his own coaching staff.
It'd be fun. It'd be a fun story to follow. But
or like he should pass it off to Harry Kane, and Harry Kane gets to be player manager of Marine against.
Go bring back Harry Redknapp. He can do it.
Yeah. No, I mean full credit.
Okay, so what if they do this? What if they have the actual raffle? They pick a person to win, and that person switches places with the Jose for a half.
Yes, and gets managed Spurs and
cool.
Jose.
Spurs and Marine, and just switch the managers at half.
I actually no.
I think Dele Alli's in an ornery mood that day.
Put forward to the Spurs board.
Yes, I wish Daniel Levy was listening to us, which I know.
Send him a copy of the tape.
Yeah, send him a copy of the tape. Hey, look, Then Danny boy, we got some marketing angles for you that we'd like you to look into. We are actually giving you and Spurs Nation credit for doing a good thing. Okay, 4 out of 6 of us are giving you credit for actually doing something. And giving you credit for supporting this non-league club and helping them through a very, very tough time. I recognize the good that you did, but there are some ways that we could spin this and have some fun in post-COVID times. So here's my suggestion. Jose Mourinho has to manage Marine against Spurs. But he doesn't have to, he actually has to go down there and take over training and do all of that stuff in the week or so leading up to that, where you're going to have one of your fans manage Spurs in a ceremony.
I don't think he has time to handle training for both squads. So I'm going to, but but it would be entertaining though to see him.
One club
switch.
I could see doing it is Spurs, though.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It could be fun. It could be fun.
I mean, there's so many ways that you could go. Sean, instead, you guys had you can talk more about the Arsenal game than I can because, I'll be honest, I didn't watch.
I don't think there's too much to say. I think that I know we were I know me and Chelsea Mike had some banter on the chat line, but mainly I think with Arsenal's current form, current maybe is the right word. Maybe their form this season has been on the low end much more so than anything. I think as long as they are able to win games, the manner in which they choose to win, it doesn't really matter. Just get the win and move on. And to say that they played well, I mean, I wouldn't say that they played well, but you're playing against a team that really decides to mount no offense throughout this season. As Newcastle has not been one to attack the goal, and luckily Andy Carroll decided to be Andy Carroll and missed a wide open shot, I think twice. But you got to take what you can get, and I don't think there's much to take away from this game. It's still an FA Cup third round game. The only thing that was worrying me was the fact that they were one of the ones that drew a fellow Premier League squad. So it would have been nice if they could have played against a squad that was from the Northern Premier League or from League Two, but it just didn't work out that way. So, but at least they got through, and they're still holding the cup. That's all I can really say about it.
Sean, thoughts on?
Yeah, I suppose the only thought that I have is we started with Willian and he is seriously shit. I looked at some dribbling figures. So you know how they do XG now, which is a propensity to be able to score. They've got the same measurement in dribbling, and he was like something between 2.6 and 4 when he was at Chelsea, and he's dropped to 0.8 with us, which means he's 3 times as worse as he was only 6 months ago, and he's showing it. So
I was gonna say, it looks like he can't be bothered anymore.
Well, he's just taking his money, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's a bit.
I mean, every Chelsea fan would have told you guys that. I mean,
yeah.
Well,
no, Chelsea tried to give him a contract. You can't say that. Chelsea tried to keep him, and they tried to give him.
They wanted, but they wanted him for
speaks
1 year, though.
They wanted him for 2 years. They offered him a 2-year contract. It was a 2-year contract, and he wanted 3.
I mean, that probably speaks to the climate at Arsenal more than the quality of the player.
That was what I was going to say. Are we asking about what his instructions are at RBK?
I'm not privy to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need to ask what a player is being asked to do at a different club. Right.
Well, we can only speculate that, but all we can do is go by what he's doing on the field.
Yeah, I presume he's been asked to run around a bit, and he's obviously not following that instruction. So God knows what other instructions he's been given. Anyway, the point being is that we've become reliant on a 20-year-old kid called Emil Death Row. And Emil is making the difference. As soon as he came on in the second half, he came on about 7 minutes into the second half, and we were transformed. So a bit worrying that we're relying on a 20-year-old kid to make us tick. Let's hope he can stay fit. It was a shame Martinelli got injured in the warm-up, so he's not having a great time with it. And it was
The
nice
old
to see
ankle
Aubameyang get a goal. So we were hoping he'd get a goal. He got a goal. Maybe that'll give him the confidence to move forward. But we've the bit. This is the bit of the podcast that I look forward to most, because Matt's now going to make his prediction for the fixtures over the next few days, and
No,
this is
Matt-
how I'm going to make up my money this
Hold
week.
on.
Favorite part
So,
every
let
week.
me
what
say
your
one more thing
predictions
though
are
about the
this
Williams
week.
situation. The thing that's most disappointing about the Williams situation, though, is that this isn't a player that was brought in after the coach, or I'm sorry, before the coach was brought in. So this is a
Yeah.
player that was
Yeah,
brought
he
in
wanted Williams.
after the
Yeah,
Arteta
yeah.
regime. He wanted to play. So the fact that this is going sour, Mike, it does lead a bit to what you were saying is what is he being asked to do. But it's never a good thing when you are paying a player a lot of money who probably is, he's on the other side of the mountain in his career. You're paying a player a lot of money, and the coach that's currently there, who's tasked with turning around the team, is the one that wanted to bring this player in as well. That looks bad. So I think that's this is an ongoing story that I think will materialize a bit more. You'll either see Willian have a turnaround, or you'll start hearing reports about kind of some of the things that Arteta and Luis are having to sort of dust up. That I think that's going to start to be published a bit more. So we'll see where this goes. Hopefully, but Willian, I mean, the guy's a phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal athlete, and hopefully they can turn it around at some point. But if he doesn't, this isn't going to be the first time this type of situation has happened at any football club, especially Arsenal.
Instead, I think to improve him, what he has to do is cut a bit of that hair off, because it's obviously
Yeah,
weighing
agree.
down.
Agree. I agree.
No,
I agree.
you've got to understand. When you grow the hair out, it's like Samson.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it?
You
not.
You cut.
I trust me.
You cut it off.
It is in a way. It is in a way. But I'll tell you this: there's nothing more freeing than having really, really, really long hair and then cutting it all off. It is one of the best feelings in the world. I speak from experience.
Well, I will tell you this. I'm trying to get through at least February with the fro that I have put on under my hat. And it'll be very, very interesting when I do cut it, because then all my hats will fit differently.
They'll be too big. Be stretching them out with all your hair.
Yeah, like, I have a select number of hats that actually still fit right now. And then I end up with like hair all over. It's ugly. But Matt, doesn't Smith Rowe remind you of like a British punk band?
He does. It's a
Yeah.
great name.
It's a great name for a British punk band.
Smith Rowe. Here we are.
The lead singer was I Fell Over in Space.
I feel like he's a Smith Rowe. Oh man.
All right,
I would love that.
so
I'm gonna take
we
that.
do need to do some predictions, and I think the last big thing that we need to talk about is the big game this week. Now, most of us are going to agree. Los is going to tell me the big game this week is whoever Spurs are playing.
Fulham.
Yeah,
That's the best team in Chelsea.
if you can argue, but Los, if you and the cat,
Fulham and Chelsea. Yeah, the best team in Fulham is Fulham.
yes, Los, if you can make an argument that that Spurs and Fulham are a bigger game than United and Liverpool at the top of the table, I'm all for it. So go for it.
It's not a bigger game for Liverpool and Man U, but I mean, if Spurs has any inclination at all of trying to stay up there with near the top of the table, they got to win this match, and they can't just look at Fulham and say, oh, these guys are pushovers. They're toward the bottom of the table. We can, walk in the park. Oh, we just beat Marine 5-0. We got this. Oh, no. We got to show up. We got to play. And that's part of the problem. I think is it's not it's almost a nice guy mentality. I know what Mourinho was getting at when you watch the All or Nothing show on Amazon Prime. I get what he's talking about. They're two nice guys. They need to be the beep. Notice how the F-bomb is all through that, and the S word is, but they bleep out a word, and I'm like, Well, what would they leave out? They'll leave the F-bomb in there. Oh, that's right. Okay. I know but that's what they got to be in order to have any chance at all at finishing toward the top of the table. Top four, you got to play tough. You can't be nice guys. Like you said, you can't be nice guys. So that's what we're facing. We're our own worst enemy sometimes.
I had a choice of football related TV shows to watch recently. I could have watched Spurs All or Nothing. I chose to watch Ted Lasso on Apple TV instead. Much better decision.
You haven't seen the show?
What?
The All or Nothing? It's been out over a year.
Yeah, I know. I was going to watch it this weekend, but then I could either watch Ted Lasso or Spurs All or Nothing.
I don't know who Ted Lasso is.
You should watch it. Have you seen it? Or it's a pretty good one. Soccer related show. It's based on a character from the early when NBC first got it. Jason Sudeikis plays an American football coach from Kansas who goes over and coaches a fictional Premier League.
Oh, okay. So
this is
based on
the
situation
advert where
comedy.
he came over and he coached.
It's actually he coached Spurs.
Dynamite Spurs.
Yeah, it's
that's a tackle right there.
That's tackle.
Yeah, that's right.
It's actually
It's
kind of funny, and I did find myself enjoying it. So,
what platform?
Apple TV Plus.
I don't have it.
Yeah,
I think it's.
But
on
there, Mike, you were talking about the
another
big
one
game of the
too.
weekend. There are 6 games before Premier games before the weekend games.
which
So
one?
what I'm looking
They seem to
forward
have mixed up week 18. They just kind of like threw them all over the place.
Yeah, which is wreaking havoc on our last man standing because I need to make sure that I pick the right game. Because if I pick Manchester United Burnley, but that's technically a
It's
match
the
day
one
one day.
It's
You
the
need to
ones that are
start with
coming up
Saturday
after
the
that. It's
18th.
match week 19.
Saturday the
Can't
16th.
pick any of the ones that are happening midweek.
Saturday the 16th.
So
Alright.
all of my Spurs mates are going to get very excited again, including you, Los, obviously, because if you beat Fulham, with the likelihood at the weekend of Liverpool drawing with Man U and Leicester drawing with Southampton, and you then have Sheffield United, you could go back top of the table.
Could happen.
Could happen.
We can
From
get
your
the
lips to
local
God's
clubs
ears.
stop, man.
And then we'll only be 4 points behind you, hopefully.
So all right. So the big one is though, Liverpool and United, and the first Liverpool United match that has top of the table ramifications since, well, before Will was,
2008?
yeah, nah,
Yeah, well,
maybe. All
you
right,
know
so
what?
Will,
Well, I was
I'm gonna
gonna say,
give, Matt, we're gonna
Matt,
be
go.
kind. We're gonna give the Liverpool fan a chance to go and spout his stuff before we cut him
Yeah.
off, tell him he's wrong, and then why he's gonna lose. Okay.
God.
Look, I mean, I'll keep it brief. I'll keep it short to give you plenty of time to rebuff me. But I think it's going to be a landmark game for Liverpool.
Oh,
And it's going to be a sort of game where Liverpool has to either decide that they're winning the league or not. And I think if they're getting a draw on that during that game on Sunday, they're probably not going to win the league. And they're not going to get my point tally total that I said they were going to get. But I think that if they win the game, I strongly believe that they'll win the league. I think it is sort of one of those moments, and especially if they can score goals against Manchester United, because we know what Manchester United's going to do. They're going to sit back, they're going to defend, and then they're going to come forward and they're trying to break Liverpool on a fast break. Because Ole's not stupid, and he knows that that's what can beat Liverpool. So, you know, if we see that happen and Liverpool decides to shoot the ball at the goal, I think Liverpool wins. if Liverpool decides to just play about 50 million passes right around the 18-yard box and not take a shot at goal, I think Manchester United has in with a shot of winning. That being said, Liverpool's going to win 5-0.
That is a too many soccer guys prediction.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
That is one of the predictions that we're famous for.
Mikey,
all right, Los.
Mikey,
Yeah.
You have a question for the Magic 8 Ball regarding Manchester United and Liverpool?
My question is right now: how full of expletive deleted is British Will?
No, it's got to be yes, no question. Magic 8 Ball. You never used a Magic 8 Ball before? Yes, no question.
I used an 8 ball before. I used an 8 ball before, but
no, but not that kind of 8 ball.
Oh man! Oh man! Oh man! Oh man!
We were doing so well.
We were doing
Okay,
so
well, it's a good job that I ended the show with
doing
those
so
two guys
well.
making their predictions.
So I'll ask: is Man United gonna win the game versus Liverpool? And it says,
ask me again later.
Without a doubt.
There we go.
Oh,
we're gonna take
ball.
it.
Yeah, but we need
Magic
to know
8
Matt's
Ball.
prediction.
But Matt,
All right.
I don't know if you agree with.
Look, London Sean's close. He's waiting for your prediction, Matt.
Yeah,
I know. Right? I'm like, God, man, I don't want to
always
say
bet
it.
against Coach Matt.
I know.
Well, this is
I
why
feel bad.
This is why I'm trying to save Coach Matt from himself, because I fear allowing him to actually make a prediction on this game, because this one means something to me.
You don't have to. I'm gonna go. I mean, I'm just putting my faith in the Magic 8 Ball. That's really it.
Okay.
That's all I can
But I don't know.
Man used to win.
I didn't say that. I just said whatever the Magic 8 Ball said.
He just went with the Magic 8 Ball.
You know what it reminds me of, Mike? Of like when in the chat, every single time that you couldn't watch United played really well, and every time you could watch United, they were awful. That's just like the streak I'm on right now. So I'm just like nervous. Like whatever. If I just abstain from this, I just put all
Okay,
my
Matt,
faith
will
in
you
the Magic 8
make
Ball.
a prediction for me on the Burnley Man U game, which obviously is going to be played later tonight in the UK?
Yeah, it's tomorrow. I'm worried. You know what? I'm gonna break the streak.
No.
This gun's gonna break the streak. I think we beat Burnley, and I think we go into Liverpool top of the league.
Okay.
So yeah, I do.
I
think honestly it'll be better for. I think it'll be better for the game as well. Like I think Liverpool fans should want United to win, because I think like Liverpool is would come out like fully revved up, like ready to kind of come at United, and I think United fans would be all for that as well, because I think it would just create a really open game, personally. But yeah. So I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna end the streak. I'm putting the gauntlet down. I think. I think United will beat Burnley.
your Premier League predictions haven't been as bad as your MLS predictions.
Yeah, but I did lose the first week of Last Man Standing. So, but that was honestly it wasn't a genuine question. That was like a genuine like prediction. I just was an idiot, and I completely forgot that Leicester had played like 2 days before, and then I was like, as soon as I'd already made it, and then I looked at it, I'm like, I'm an idiot, but I'm not going to go back on it. So
I was just I was just trying to get Arsenal out of the way.
Aren't we all?
I'm trying to get Arsenal off of my prediction. I would rather have to try and figure out when Sheffield United were going to win than try and figure out when Arsenal was going to get one. I found that hard. I think this is more of a must-win game for Liverpool right now. They are the defending champs. They are the ones that they are the odds-on favorites. They are the hunted as opposed to the hunters. United can go in there. If they lose, to be expected. A draw, still a positive result. A win, and, well, all hell will break loose. Will, I think you've nailed tactics on that. We know how United is going to play, and we know how Liverpool is going to play. If United can get towards Liverpool center backs which is going to be the quote unquote weakness in the team, because you don't have Van Dyke, you don't have your top center backs, right?
Don't have Van Dijk, don't have Gomez, don't
Gomez,
have
don't have
Matip, don't
Matip.
have a centre back. Sorry.
All right, so if there is
Sorry.
there is a discernible weakness in that team, it is going to be at the defense. If they can get in on the counterattack and get at that defense, that's where you're going to find the weakness. That's the weak link of the team. Now, granted, that is a whole lot more easier said than done, right? You know, across the attack, across the midfield, they're pretty solid. If that can happen, United can get the win. Most likely result is what has occurred in all of the games that United has played, with the exception of Tottenham, against top 6 opposition, where it should be, and barring a dumb Paul Pogba penalty, would have been a 0-0 draw. But we'll see what they do. That being said, we got to start getting out of here because, as always, we went a little bit long tonight. So,
No problem, Mikey.
yeah, thanks for that. And I love you too. And I'm starting.
Strangely, those are the odds for Burnley to beat Man U tomorrow night as well.
that was what he was doing. Los wasn't trying to have a go at me. He wasn't trying to throw shade in a lit room. He was just reminding me of what the odds are.
Well, it's because Sean just stopped as soon as he heard my prediction. He went and bet.
All right, so
It's your bets.
You got it.
Gentlemen, this has been enjoyable, as it always is. We got to put a big bow on this one. So as we get out of here, I want to give a big thank you to Andy the Hammer for enduring the lashing that he knew he was going to get when he came on here and had to try and justify the existence of Sebastian Haller. Holler! Chelsea Mike, who scared the living daylights out of me with an all caps text, being very mad at Brighton. I may or may not forgive him at some point in the future.
But wait, there's more.
Yes. Thank you to Los and El Gato, London Sean, British Will, Coach Matt, and of course, producer Stead, who makes sure that we actually are able to do this show every week. We did okay this week. We'll try and do better next week. I'm Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, and enjoy your week in football. Thank you very much.